Fox 13 News at 9 starts now.
Our top story tonight at 9, of course, is the weather. The cold is here. It has been a bitter and chilly evening in the Mid-South tonight. Right now, the temperatures across the area look like they're around 40 degrees. Brr. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Darcy Thomas.
I'm Daryl Green. Feels a lot colder than that with a wind chill. It's a little steeper. You know, my mama always called this raw weather. Let's begin our team coverage tonight with Chief Meteorologist Andrew Humphrey live at Severe Weather Center 13. Andrew, did we hear the word snow stretched out in the forecast?
Oh, when we talked about that at 5 and 6, we'll talk about if you hear it again later in this newscast. In fact, right now, we're looking at dry conditions out there. That's some good news. Temperatures, though, right at 40 degrees, as Darcy and Daryl mentioned. Mostly cloudy skies, and it remains dry through the night. But when you wake up tomorrow morning, make sure you're prepared, and the kids are prepared for temperatures closer to freezing or a bit below. Upper 20s, low 30s at 7 a.m. at the bus stop. Later on in the morning, we're still in those low 30s, between 30 and 35 degrees after breakfast time, making it to high temperatures only around 40. Now, we have team coverage because we want to get to you early about every type of weather scenario that can happen that can impact you and your family. Next week, our long-range models and our long-range forecast have us being wetter than average as we go into next week, especially the middle of it. But wetter can mean a couple of things. It just means more precipitation, but is it rain, ice, or snow? Well, to talk about if it's rain, Matt Urasovic, our other meteorologist, is here as well. Matt, in case there's rain, how should folks prepare?
Yeah, and like you mentioned, we do have that chance for rain, ice, or snow. So as we talk about what if rain happens, we've seen a lot of rain in the month of January, but we're going to go over some of those things again. Now, out of all the scenarios, this is the nicer one, but it still could be hazardous and nicer compared to ice or snow. Those types of things on the roadways, not as nice as we would just have some raindrops out there. So pounding on the roadways, that would be likely with some periods of heavier rain if a bigger storm system were to come through, just like the last couple. But if some of that heavier rain were to fall and you be out on those roadways, the visibility would be on the lower side as well. And then the roads, they'll be wet and they could be slick, especially if there's still some leaves out there blowing around. They won't be as slick as if there was ice or snow on the roads, but things could still be a little hazardous out there. So, Andrew, as we head through next week, again, preparing for all types of weather, but rain could be the best of the other two evils that are out there. So to say.
Matt, you're absolutely right. Thanks for preparing folks in case we do see more rain as we go into next week. We'll break down the scenarios if there's ice or snow with more team coverage coming up during the newscast. But for now, we'll send it back over to you at the news desk.
You know, the Scorpion car pull over to East Range and Ross. You have one running on foot.
As the country awaits the police video showing what may prove to be the deadly confrontations between MPD officers and Tyre Nichols, Fox 13 has obtained the radio dispatch audio from that day.
Now, in one of the dispatches from police, you can hear what appears to be Nichols trying to breathe.
Fox 13's Daniel Wilkerson spent the day going through that audio file. Daniel, that audio starts from the location of the initial stop at East Rains and Ross Road.
And you know what? In that audio, you can hear the dispatcher call for even more officers of the Scorpion unit, that specialized unit with MPD, who had the confrontations with Tyre Nichols.
2933. We got one male black running.
That black male referred to on police dispatch is thought to be 29-year-old Tyre Nichols.
2938, you still have eyes on that subject?
We know from reports just minutes before, officers have pulled over Nichols, they say, for reckless driving at East Rains and Ross Road.
You know, the Scorpion car pull over to East Range and Ross.
You heard the dispatcher there call for more officers of the Scorpion unit. That unit made up of 4 teams of officers whose primary focus is reducing violent crimes in hotspot areas throughout Memphis. 2 seconds later into the tape, that message is repeated.
You know, the Scorpion car pull over to East Range and Ross. You have one running on foot.
Nearly 4 minutes later comes this, presumably after Nichols ran and the unit is searching for him.
Run that tag and see what the answer is.
The dispatcher then replies.
Call to be advised that subject resides at 6742 Castlegate.
And then it's obvious at this point that Scorpion unit has caught up with Nichols. His mother says they were just yards from the family's home. In this dispatch, you'll hear an officer and then what sounds to be Nichols trying to breathe. 7 seconds later,
At Ross and Castlegate Lane, he's fighting at this time.
and then finally, these are the last two dispatches.
Does the fire department need to come down to you, or are you bringing them back down here? Check, they're heading that way now.
As we bring you back out live, the total of that dispatch audio goes on for about 10 minutes. We know from Ben Crump, the attorney for the Nichols family, that the confrontation that's in question went on for about 3 minutes. So it's assumed at this point that they searched for Tyre Nichols for about 7 minutes. Daryl.
That is Fox 13's Daniel Wilkerson live in Memphis tonight. Daniel, thank you for that update.
Well, the U.S. Attorney in Memphis says that the 5 former police officers from Memphis connected to the death of Tyre Nichols are not only facing local and state charges, they're now being investigated by the Department of Justice. U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Tennessee, Kevin Ritz, says that he spoke with Nichols' family about the case earlier this week. Criminal civil rights violations for police officers mostly fall under the deprivation of right under color of law. That is what makes it a crime for a person to willfully deprive a person of a right or privilege protected by the Constitution or the laws of the United States. This is the type of crime that is punishable up to a life term in prison or even the death penalty, depending on the crime and resulting injury.
I said we have opened a criminal civil rights investigation. I told them this federal civil rights investigation will be thorough, it will be methodical, and it will continue.
Ritz also knows that there is great public interest in the video of the beating of Nichols. He says that it is up to state and local agencies when that video is released.
The police are supposed to help us and protect us, not hurt us. Those are words from a 7th grade student at Riverview Middle School in South Memphis after what happened to Tyre Nichols. One Memphis teacher said that her students spent an entire day writing letters to Memphis Mayor Jim Strickland about how they feel about all of this. Fox 13's Mandy Rock tells us why that teacher said this lesson is so important.
Pontia Durham is a long-term substitute here at Riverview School. On Monday, she said her students watched online as Tyre Nichols' family spoke during a press conference. After, she said each student wrote a letter to Mayor Strickland and a councilman to express their feelings. After Nichols died after a confrontation with police, Durham said her students had a lot of questions. She talked with them about police brutality, juvenile crime, and constitutional rights. Durham said she wants her students to know their voices count and they have the power to make change.
Some were shocked. Some were just in disbelief. I said, you want something done about it? Let's talk about it. Not only are we going to talk about it, let's write about it. And I had them to put their feelings on paper.
Durham said she plans to mail those letters next week. And she encourages parents to have an open discussion with their kids to talk about how they're feeling. In South Memphis, Mandy Rock, Fox 13 News.
Now stay with us, because we'll continue to follow the latest developments in the Tyre Nichols case. You can sign up for customized alerts on our Fox 13 News app. We'll also have live updates on Good Morning Memphis tomorrow morning starting at 4:30.
We have new details for you tonight about the plane crash that killed 3 Germantown Harvest Church leaders and injured a pastor. Now that pastor, he was the only survivor. According to the NTSB, passengers with serious injuries, apparently there was a passenger that got out of the plane and called first responders using his cell phone. The preliminary report shows that the plane crashed before it landed at the runway at the Yoakum Municipal Airport in Texas. The plane was about a mile south of the runway when it turned east and went down. Elder Executive Bill Garner, Steve Tucker, Tyler Patterson, and Tyler Springer were all killed. Lead pastor Kenan Vaughn survived the crash. Now tonight we are getting an update on Pastor Vaughn's condition. The churches, they posted on Facebook saying that Vaughn continues to take great strides in his recovery. Well, a man has been sentenced for stealing a police car and leading officers on a high-speed chase into Memphis. The Department of Justice says that Cody DeMent was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison for assault of a federal officer and the use and discharge of a firearm during that assault. Less than 2 years ago, the FBI and South Haven police tried to pull DeMent over. It led to a high-speed chase. But when the suspect got out of his car, he shot an officer in the arm, stole the officer's car, and took off across the bridge into Arkansas. DeMent eventually crashed and surrendered.
A woman was arrested after a shooting this afternoon in Fraser. It's all according to Memphis police. Officers say that shooting happened about 2:27 today, just before 2:30 in the 2300 block of Fraser Boulevard. A man was taken to Regional 1 after that shooting. It's still under investigation, according to officers. New tonight, workers are suing Kroger after allegations that they were not paid for their work.
Well, employees say ever since Kroger started using a new payroll system, they have faced some major problems with their paychecks. The lawsuit is targeting Kroger, who owns and operates stores throughout Virginia and West Virginia as well. This new payroll system is called My Time or My Info. Allegedly didn't pay workers overtime or possibly deducted money from their paychecks. The lawsuit says that Kroger is aware of all of the issues, but failed to take prompt action to rectify all of the problems.
Coming up, find out why state leaders want to take over Jackson's water system in Mississippi. They say the solution is a possible change of ownership. And mental health training may soon be available for Mississippi police officers to help people who find themselves in crisis. Plus, Shelby County deputies are taking on a new approach for drunk drivers who decide to make the wrong decision. In 2021, Shelby County had almost 600 DUI arrests. And the Shelby County Sheriff's Department, or I should say the Sheriff's Office, tells us with only a handful of deputies trained as DUI investigators, they're often stretched very thin in this type of enforcement.
They are. Well, that's why Fox 13's Kayla Solomon is joining us tonight. Kayla, you found out that all of that is about to change.
Darcy, in an exclusive interview with Fox 13, the Traffic Patrol says its deputies will now have a new training under their belt, and it will help turn a process that currently takes 2 to 3 hours and cut that time in half.
Right now, we have about 110 patrol deputies out on patrol each day.
In Shelby County, when a sheriff's office deputy pulls over a driver who may be under the influence of alcohol or drugs, most deputies can only do a basic check.
They could do some minimum things, such as the walk in a straight line to check their eyes, or maybe even see if they had an odor of intoxicant coming off their person. They can conduct a minimal investigation, but they would typically call a DUI technician over to further that investigation.
In the past, there were 5 DUI technicians spread thin across the entire county. That's 785 square miles for 5 people, including supporting neighboring law enforcement agencies. Anthony Buckner, Assistant Chief of Patrol with SCSO, says that's about to change.
The plan is to train 6 more deputies in February and continue to train more and more deputies until hopefully at some point, if the equipment and the financial support says it, we'll have all of our deputies with the equipment and the training necessary to investigate impaired drivers.
He says the department will be taking groups of patrol deputies and cross-training them to also become DUI investigators. This requires extra training.
These 72 hours is additional training on how to operate the equipment that will be issued, and it's a refresher course on investigating suspected drivers who are impaired.
And of course, with that equipment, we'll take a look at that coming up at 10. Darcy.
That is Fox 13's Kayla Solomon reporting tonight. Thank you, Kayla.
The state of Mississippi could expand training for law enforcement officers to respond to people who need mental health care.
Republican Representative Sam Creekmore of New Albany says that House Bill 1222 would require local law enforcement agencies to provide first aid mental health training for their officers. It also would require each of those agencies to have at least one officer with more extensive training for crisis intervention. The bill would also authorize the state to provide more liaisons to help when it comes to court cases for people who need to be connected to mental health services.
Some leaders in Mississippi want a new board to take over the city of Jackson's troubled water system. Republican lawmakers are advancing a bill that would transfer ownership of Jackson's water system to a new public entity that's overseen by a board. And the majority of that board would be appointed by state leaders. The new entity would assume ownership after a federally appointed interim manager finishes their assessment. Now, the bill was voted out of committee yesterday, which means it can now be brought before the full Senate for consideration.
And if you had to head outdoors tonight, know that it is going to be a chilly one out there right now.
Man, it's raw like hamburger.
That's cold.
It'll cut right through. Let's go to Chief Meteorologist Andrew Humphrey live in Severe Weather Center 13 right now. Andrew?
Oh, that's right. For tomorrow morning, that's an easy way to wake up, right? But I tell you what, make sure that you're prepared. Make sure your kids are prepared as well for many of those lower temperatures. We're looking at temps in the 20s to around freezing by dawn. Fortunately, the precipitation we had earlier, only some scattered sprinkles when you join us at 5 and 6, continues to dissipate and move away. You got a couple of raindrops here just to the south and east of Bolivar here in Fayette and also in Hardeman counties. That is going to continue to move away. And we're looking at drier conditions for tonight. But it's already pretty chilly out there, 40 degrees. Dew points are in the low 30s. We're looking at winds lighter than at this time yesterday at only around 13 miles per hour. But 30s all around for the most part throughout much of the Mid-South, including 39 in Bolivar. International is also at 39. Many of these temperatures are right at the marks they were at this time yesterday or a little bit lower, as much as 2 or even 4 degrees lower than just 24 hours ago. So the colder air for many places continues to settle in as we go through the night. But it continues to be dry. High pressure will be the main influence, nice stable air, so mostly cloudy but dry for tonight, some clearing skies by tomorrow afternoon, but still colder than average. Let's fast forward into next week. We talked about this at the top of the show. There's a good chance of another storm system coming in with temperatures possibly below average again. On this computer model, we're looking at the possibility of maybe some icy conditions just north of Memphis by Wednesday morning, then a transition from rain over to ice and snow with this model by Wednesday night, early Thursday. The second model that we look at is also seeing the same thing, but with some different timing and a different trajectory. So this prediction of ice and snow happens later in time, more like Thursday afternoon, possibly. But it all remains unknown for now because there's still a lot of time to go before we get from now until the middle of next week, and there's a lot that can change with each model. We'll see if they come into alignment, and we'll see what transpires by that time. We're looking at 32 degrees overnight for tonight, cold with clouds overhead, wind at around 10 to 15 miles per hour overnight, and sunrise is at 7:04 on your Thursday. As we go into Thursday afternoon, still colder than average by a good 10 degrees, similar to today, with highs only around 51. But we have sunshine coming back for Friday, and temperatures snap back into the 50s. 53 degrees on your Friday. For your weekend, we get some sunshine on Friday. Rain moves in here Saturday night into Sunday, but Sunday will have a high of 51. Then, as we go into next week, we're looking at temperatures in the 40s on Monday, and there's that chance of rain. And again, with both of those models I showed you, and we look at as many as 4 to 6, those two, both of those scenarios, regardless of timing, have some wintry precipitation. So there's still the possibility of some rain, but mixing with ice or snow by next Wednesday.
Thanks so much, Andrew. Still to come, the trial begins for a man accused of killing a Nashville nurse. That story is just ahead on Fox 13 News at 9.
The trial in the case of a Nashville nurse killed as she was driving to work will center on whether Devontae Hill acted in a premeditated way when he shot and killed Caitlin Kaufman, according to attorneys.
We also know that this trial will also focus on whether he reacted automatically or without thinking after being cut off. Media outlets report that in the opening statements today, both sides agreed that Hill killed the nurse on December 3rd, 2020. They even agreed that the motive was road rage. However, they differed on whether Hill and co-defendant James Cohen are guilty of first-degree murder.
Coming up, there are reports of people pretending to be MLGW workers out to commit crime. But are those reports true? We dig into this issue. We find the answers. The latest on that coming up. And just last year, we told you about a ceiling collapse at Cummins K-8 school, I should say. Have conditions improved there? We went back to to look for ourselves. Some parents say things are worse. A live update is just ahead. And things are getting colder in the Mid-South as we track the possibility of a wintry mix, even snow in the upcoming forecast. The latest is on the way.
Well, it is cloudy out there, some scattered sprinkles out there as well. It is bitter and just a chilly evening across the Mid-South right now. Really glad you're joining us for Fox 13 News at 9. I'm Darcy Thomas.
And I'm Daryl Gray, and our team coverage continues tonight with our team of meteorologists who's been tracking the highs near 45 degrees and maybe even some snow in the forecast. Let's go straight to Chief Meteorologist Andrew Humphrey live in Severe Weather Center 13. Andrew?
Well, Daryl and Darcy, I know folks heard the word snow out there. The good news is we can wait until next week for that possibility. We'll get to that in just a second with that team coverage. First, nothing falling from the sky right now. Less windy than last night. Calmer, wind of around 10 miles per hour, but only 40 degrees at this hour, and some temps are in the 30s across much of the Mid-South. By morning, what can you expect? Mostly cloudy, but still dry. Temperatures starting off in the upper 20s and low 30s, generally below freezing. No chance of rain, though, as you get the day started, and wind out of the west at around 10 to 15 miles per hour. Now, next week, things could change once again, and there's a good possibility of us having the colder than average air with us. So let me show you a couple of computer models with the help of my fellow meteorologist, Matt Yarosevich. We have a European model here that shows the ice potential by the middle of next week, just north of Memphis, southern Missouri, northeastern Arkansas. That's a possibility, but it is not a guarantee. Matt's here once again. Matt, show the folks out there in the audience the American model and some of those differences.
Yeah, and you can really tell the differences. We've got a lot more colors right in here, right in through the Mid-South, and some of those colors on the darker side. You even see some purple down there in parts of Arkansas. That just signifies a little bit better of a chance of some icing with the American model for next week. But again, so much variability in these models, and still between 5 and 7 days out from this potential wintry system. So still a lot of things can change. But as we prepare you for the chance for some of this weather as we head into next week, this is just in case of rain. We've got still, it's nicer than the ice, but it's still pretty hazardous outside. And there's going to be some ponding on the roadways as well. There is that chance, though, for lower visibilities, and then the roadways will be wet and slick. Change that over to that chance of ice, and that's going to be where things start to get very slick very quickly. We're talking about the chance for some of that ice on the roadways, making things extremely slick, and then power outages coming back into play, and you can see that right here. Keep the salt on the sidewalks and the driveways out ahead of that. Power outages, again, becoming more likely with that chance of some ice out there, Andrew.
Matt Yarosevich, thank you very much for explaining that scenario and the impact that it can have. We'll take another deep dive into the possibilities for next week in your 7-day forecast in minutes.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Well, new tonight, we're talking about overcrowded classrooms. 2 schools combined into one. Tonight, parents of Cummings K-12 school are complaining about the congestion that is happening inside of their kids' school.
I mean, this is understandable given everything that's happened, because a ceiling collapsed at the school back in August of last year, forcing those students to go to school at La Rose Elementary. Fox 13 education reporter Lakia Scott joins us live from La Rose. Lakia, some of those parents told you that there are as many as 40 students to one classroom?
That's correct, Daryl. Darcy and the parents I spoke with, they are not happy about that number. In fact, they say that there are far too many students in this building these days, and they say that that overcrowding is causing a barrier to student learning.
They got all these kids crammed in this small school.
5 months after a ceiling collapse happened at Cummings K-12 school on August 15th, some parents say they had enough.
So if you have to come here next year, next school year?
Nah, they not gonna come here. Nah. We gonna look for something else.
It's like 40 kids in one classroom. They're not getting the proper learning tools that they need.
Monday, Memphis-Shelby County schools announced coming students will stay at LaRose Elementary the rest of the year due to unexpected construction delays. We learned the district also made this decision to avoid interrupting upcoming student TCAP testing. But parents who view this latest update as an inconvenience not only complain of overcrowding, but also what they call bad lunches.
Their food is terrible, like it's real terrible. My kids complain about it every day.
And even congested morning routes during drop-off.
Everybody's over there from the roads and Cummings in the morning. The traffic is so it be jammed up. It's crazy.
The move to LaRose was only intended to be a week-long temporary fix, but MSCS says repairs may not be complete until spring.
I don't think they're going to even have it ready next year, to be honest.
Now, the parents are telling me that the classes are so crowded, in fact, that sometimes the students ask the teachers for help, and for instance, the teacher may forget to go back to that student to assist, and that's because they're helping so many students in a large classroom. Now, I did reach out to MSCS regarding these parents' concerns, and we're still waiting to hear back, but coming up at 10, we'll hear more from the parents and all these things that they are concerned about amid this merger. Darcy, Darrell.
That is Fox 13's Lakia Scott live at LaRose Elementary. Thank you, Lakia.
Just ahead, we're talking about a social media post about home robberies by men who are posing as MLGNW utility workers has been circulating across platforms.
Yeah, and as you could imagine, community members are startled. They're concerned for their safety. Fox 13's Sierra Jordan has the latest from East Memphis, where she reached out to MLGW today to find out if there really is a threat.
MLGW told me they haven't received any reports about home invasions, but they did offer tips about ways homeowners can spot an impersonator.
It scares me to death because I'm usually home alone most of the day.
Take a look at this post shared on social media. It says, just a heads up. Apparently, there are some guys with stolen MLGW uniforms doing home invasions. If somebody comes to the door claiming to be MLGW, then don't answer the door.
You just always have to be on guard and, aware of your surroundings and, and obviously if you have a worker come to your house, you probably need to look for the actual ID badge.
The social media post sparked fear among MLGW customers. Several people shared the post, spreading awareness to watch out for men posing as MLGW workers. One post says, MLGW already robbing us. Now y'all want to pretend to be the robbers and rob us some more. While another says, be aware of men posing as MLGW claiming they've been assigned to make repairs. But a spokesperson for the utility company says they haven't gotten any reports on home invasions. MLGW posted on their Facebook page tips on spotting a utility poser. They say if somebody claims to be from MLGW, ask to see their ID. Outside of an emergency, MLGW employees will not show up at your door without an appointment.
This happens all over the country. Not just Memphis, but we are here, we see it, we hear it.
We also reached out to Memphis police and they told us they also haven't received any reports of home invasions about men posing as the MLGW workers. Back to you.
All right, take a good look here. This is exactly what you think it is. It's a robot working as a waiter. We've got all the details about this one-of-a-kind bot right here in Memphis at 9:45. Plus, some Fireball connoisseurs are mad at the liquor maker. We're going to tell you why in just a moment. Well, the maker of Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey is facing a federal lawsuit, and they say it's because many bottles of the alcohol do not contain whiskey.
I bet that ticked somebody off.
Woo.
I bet that did.
I mean, you're going to anyway.
Apparently, the label on Fireball sold at liquor stores says, quote, whiskey with natural cinnamon flavor. The subject of the class action lawsuit is that the mini bottles sold at gas stations and markets, they say the labels on those bottles look nearly identical, except they say Fireball Cinnamon, but there is no mention of whiskey. That fires somebody up.
I mean, you're going to drink that and then... How about a talking robot who serves up your dinner? It's real, and it's in East Memphis. Fox 13's Jack Bilyeu is showing off this new Android technology right after the break. Okay, if you've been dining in East Memphis recently, you might have seen this gadget. The first signs of the robot uprising, if you will. All right, everybody stay calm, first of all. Don't freak out, unless you see Darcy freak out. Because these are not...
You should freak out.
These are not the Terminators. These are not the droids that you're looking for.
It's just robot waiters.
Kinda.
Okay. Well, Fox 13's Jack Bilyeu is joining us live tonight at El Porton off of Poplar. Jack, so explain these cyber servers.
Also, what's in the cup?
This is a non-alcoholic margarita. I'm sitting here in my booth enjoying my virgin beverage, and it's almost closing time here at El Porton, but we have one of the servers right here. Now, it's built by a company in Atlanta, and as you can see, it kind of looks like a mix between R2-D2 and a Roomba. And right now it's in sleep mode because when these wake up, they roll around the restaurant and blast music, but let's see what that face looks like. You can pet its ears to wake up. Now, we caught up with one of the robots around the restaurant to hear how it feels about working in the service industry. Do you like your job? The robots might not be great conversationalists, but they can speak. They can sing happy birthday to guests. And if you stand in their way, they'll tell you to move.
If you get right by them, they say, you're in my way, can you please move?
Marcela Mata, the general manager at El Porton, says the restaurant brought in the robots 2 weeks ago, and they've quickly become a hit with customers.
I like that. Thank you.
Wow, what is this? This is so beautiful. It's awesome. And they be videotaping all the time, you know, but they like them. They like them.
The robots named Bella 1 and Bella 2 both have screens for faces that look like animated cats. Customers we spoke to had nothing but positive things to say about the attending androids.
The little robot seems so friendly because, you know, we're a human being, you can be up or down. The robot is just smiling, they're going, here's your meal. And it was kind of cute.
Edward Dillard says this was the first time he'd been waited on by a robot, but with today's rapid technological progress, he expects to see them become more common.
Let's face it, we're coming into an age when AI is going to be not taking over, but, you know, helping, assisting. You might as well get used to it.
Though the robot helpers might seem like something from science fiction,
I am C-3PO Human-Cyborg Relations, and this is my counterpart, R2-D2.
Mata says the robots can't cook, and a waiter is still required to unload the food they carry, so she doesn't expect the restaurant to be fully staffed by them anytime soon. But she does expect them to be a great help during a lunch rush.
It's not replacing. Nobody is only trying to give a better service to the customers, you know.
Now, the manager says each of the robots cost about $25,000 and took 8 hours to program to the floor plan of the restaurant. Back to you.
I didn't have that much training. And look, this is all fine and this is all fine and good, Jack, until AI really does develop its own, you know, sentient ability to outthink us all, and then what?
There go the jobs. There goes your job, Jack.
No, they can destroy not only your meal, but they can destroy the human race.
No, we're not going that far.
Well,
we're not going that far. So, Jack, this robot, is it only at this one El Porton, or do they have them at all of the locations? Jack.
I think I broke Jack.
I guess Jack can't hear us. Let's just say, oh, he can't hear us. Oh,
I'm sorry.
We tried.
I broke Jack with my rant about
We tried. Let Jack be.
Taking over. Andrew, do you use AI by any chance? Because now I'm concerned. I see he's got like 11 different computers in Severe Weather Center 13.
We're going to talk about that because we do actually use computer models, and that comes in heavily when it comes to forecasting, especially long-range weather. Out there right now, we can see on our computers and right here on Fox 13 radar, any sprinkles that we had earlier are now gone. They have dissipated. We're in for a dry night the rest of the night. We're looking at mostly cloudy skies. Mighty chilly, though. 40 degrees over at the airport and 30s elsewhere. 39 for our friends in Covington. Bolivar's at 39. Same thing in Corinth, while we're still holding on to those 40s in Tunica. Not as windy as yesterday. Winds, though, at around 8 to 12 miles per hour in between those marks, and they'll lighten just a bit by dawn. Certainly not as windy as earlier this morning or last night. It remains dry overnight, but colder air continues to settle in. Afternoon temperatures today were barely above 40 degrees. Expect a repeat for tomorrow, even with some added sunshine in the afternoon. High pressure means we'll have that stable air not only for tomorrow, but also for your Friday. And then by Friday afternoon, some of that colder air moves away. But then the colder air comes back for next week. Here's one of those computer models I was alluding to, and what we were talking about since the top of the show and the top of this half hour. This model here, known as the European model, because it actually originates in the UK, the United Kingdom, from the UK Meteorological Office, has some snow and some ice for portions of Missouri, northern Arkansas, and then once again, not only Wednesday morning, but also next Wednesday evening for Memphis and a greater part of the Mid-South. This one here, the American model, because it originates here in the United States with the National Weather Service, also has some wintry weather, but the timing is a bit different. Some of that snow and ice slated for later on Thursday instead of early Thursday morning or late Wednesday night, more like midday Thursday or Thursday afternoon. So those are some of the models that we look at, and we use our education to decipher which one is more relevant or may be more accurate. Both of them definitely have some wintry weather into next week, and that's part of your 7-day forecast. But tonight, no wintry weather at all. It'll be cold enough for it with temperatures down to around 32, but it remains dry. Don't be surprised by some temperatures in the 20s when you wake up on your Thursday. By Thursday afternoon, those clouds break up a bit. High temperatures, though, only around 40 or 41. So bundle up for tomorrow. Morning and the afternoon, make sure the kids have their layers on at the bus stop. 53 then on Friday, after another cold night Thursday night with temperatures below freezing in the 20s. 53 on your Friday. We can enjoy 50s on Saturday with a fair amount of sunshine. Clouds come back by Saturday night into Sunday. It will be warm enough to produce rain showers for the weekend. Again, mainly the second half of your weekend. Then into next week, we slip back down to around 50 degrees. Colder by the middle of next week with some rain, but the possibility of some snow and ice mixing in. So stay tuned.
Well, just ahead, audio recordings have been released in connection to the death of Tyre Nichols. We have a live report on some of his final moments coming up at 10. Well, students in the Mid-South expressed their feelings in emotional letters about Nichols' death. And 100 North Main may not look the same soon. We have all the details on a facelift coming up at 9:55.
260 million. That's how much developers say they're going to have to fork over to bring the tallest building on the Memphis skyline back to life. Work at 100 North Main Street could begin within the next month.
Well, Fox 13's Dominic Dillon has the latest from downtown Memphis. Dominic, so what could finally be moving in?
Well, we're told there are some developers very interested in this historic building behind me, and they're also interested in allowing it to keep its historic structure. This building may become home to hotels as well as apartments and retail stores and much more, I'm told. Today, the Downtown Mobility Authority, part of the Downtown Memphis Commission, approved allowing developers to begin the demolition and removal of hazardous materials inside 100 North Main. Within a month, crews are expected to be cleaning up and safely removing hazardous material as well as some interior demolition. All of this is expected to take place over the next 14 months, and we're told this will occur while the Downtown Mobility Authority still owns the building.
We're really excited about seeing new life from 100 North Main, even in these tough economic conditions. The team is really committed and they're working to move forward.
Now, if all things go well, Downtown Memphis Commission President and CEO Paul Young says this building may be open for business as soon as 2025. Back to you.